President Lee Jae-myung and U.S. President Donald Trump will hold their first summit in Washington, D.C. on August 25th. Lee's three-day visit will include discussions on the two countries' security alliance and economic partnership. And in light of Vietnam's top political leaders' visit to South Korea this week, South Korea on Tuesday hosted a business forum where Seoul and Hanoi explored ways to further tighten their economic collaboration and sealed over 50 MOUs in the energy, food, and tourism sectors. The song Golden from K-pop Demon Hunters has made it to the #1 spot on the Billboard Hot 100. The milestone makes the Hunters the first fictional act to top the chart since Encanto, and the first female group to do so since Destiny's Child in 2001. The president's office has confirmed the first summit between the leaders of South Korea and the U.S. will take place in around 2 weeks from today. It'll be President Lee Jae-myung's first face-to-face with President Donald Trump since taking office 2 months ago. Our president's office correspondent Yoon Jung-min reports.
The date has been made official for the first E-Trump summit, August 25th. President Lee Jae-myung will be in Washington from August 24th to 26th upon invitation from U.S. President Donald Trump. According to the top office in Seoul, it'll be a working visit involving a luncheon. During the first summit in more than 2 months since Lee took office, the agenda will include key issues.
The two leaders will discuss ways to develop the South Korea-U.S. alliance into a future-oriented, comprehensive strategic alliance in response to the changing international security and economic environment.
An economic partnership on chips, batteries, and shipbuilding will top the agenda, as well as high technology and critical minerals, as part of the Allies Framework Trade Deal that was reached late last month, before the Trump administration's August 1st deadline. Security issues that were not addressed at that time could be on the table. Eyes are also on whether the two leaders will discuss resuming dialogue with North Korea, reflecting peace efforts by the new government in Seoul.
The leaders will discuss measures to coordinate peace on the Korean Peninsula and denuclearization, while further strengthening the robust South Korea-U.S. combined defense posture.
First Lady Kim Keon will be accompanying the president. Business leaders could also join the trip, though the presidential office says it has yet to be decided. With much speculation that President Lee's trip to neighboring Japan will precede his U.S. trip, his office remains tight-lipped, adding it's sounding out various possibilities. Yoon Jung-min, Arirang News.
And attention is now on what specific items will be on the table. For now, security and trade are expected to top the agenda. Our Park Kwon-woo has more.
As the Korea-U.S. summit approaches later this month, speculation is mounting over the possible agenda items. One is security, including modernizing the alliance, which could involve changes to the size and role of the U.S. forces Korea, increasing defense spending, and greater strategic flexibility. This comes after remarks last week from USFK Commander Xavier Brunson, who cited evolving security threats, including from the North's nuclear program expansion. Asked about a potential troop reduction, he stressed capability over numbers. Observers are watching how much Seoul can concede, as fully rejecting U.S. requests may be difficult while maintaining stability on the peninsula. The Washington Post also reported that the U.S. initially sought to raise Korea's defense spending from 2.6% to 3.8% of GDP, along with boosting Seoul's annual cost-sharing payments for U.S. troops. Another expected key item is finalizing details of Korea's $350 billion investment pledge made during tariff negotiations. About $150 billion is expected to go toward the Mascot project, possibly through acquiring and operating U.S. shipyards and building and supplying naval and commercial vessels. The rest would possibly be invested more broadly in sectors such as chips and batteries. Specific investment sectors and timelines for implementation are expected to be discussed. Talks may also touch on non-tariff barriers, from the possible allowance of agriculture and beef imports to digital trade issues. With about 2 weeks remaining, The summit is expected to tackle these issues with the hope of concluding the talks with constructive outcomes for both sides. Park Gun-woo, Arirang News.
As the U.S. and China have agreed to extend their trade truce for another 90 days, Beijing will give relief to American firms listed on a trade and investment control list in April. But global tariff uncertainty is expected to persist due to the Trump administration's tariffs imposition. Cheong Wa Dae has more.
U.S. President Donald Trump signed an executive order on Monday extending the U.S. China tariff truce by 90 days. The move finalizes the outcome of last month's high-level trade talks in Sweden. As a result, U.S. tariffs on China, cut to 30% in May, and China's tariffs on the U.S., lowered to 10%, will remain in place until early November. Analysts say any breakthrough is likely to come only after a face-to-face meeting between President Trump and China's President Xi Jinping, possibly on the sidelines of the APEC meeting in Gyeongju, South Korea, this October. Reviewing the joint statement on U.S. China economic and trade meeting in Geneva on May 12, 2025, the White House said on Monday that regarding articles outlined in quote-unquote the announcement of the Customs Tariff Commission of the State Council number 4 of 2025, it would suspend 24 percentage points of the 34% rate set then, quote-unquote, for an additional period of 90 days. China announced it would, quote-unquote, adopt or maintain all necessary administrative measures to suspend or remove the non-tariff countermeasures taken against the United States as agreed in the Geneva joint statement. To implement the consensus reached at the China-U.S. high-level economic and trade talks, effective August 12, 2025, the spokesperson of the Ministry of Commerce of China said on Tuesday that it would extend relief to American companies that were placed on a trade and investment control and unreliable entities list in April. The Ministry of Commerce said it would stop those restrictions for some companies while giving others another 90-day extension. However, as the Trump administration has signaled upcoming tariffs on the pharmaceutical and semiconductor sectors later this week, global tariff uncertainty persists. Cheong Wa Dae, Arirang News.
Now, over in the U.S., where President Donald Trump said he'll hold talks with Russian President Vladimir Putin this week in Alaska. Trump also said that following the talks, he would pursue a trilateral summit with his Ukrainian counterpart Volodymyr Zelensky. Lee Seung-jae reports.
U.S. President Donald Trump confirmed on Monday that he would be holding a face-to-face meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin on Friday in Alaska. Trump also raised the possibility of a trilateral summit involving Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky after his one-on-one talks with Putin. However, he said while he would be available if needed, he'd prefer a bilateral meeting between Putin and Zelensky. While leaving open the possibility of a trilateral summit, President Trump stated that he would first hear Putin's thoughts and potentially share the details of the meeting with President Zelensky, the EU, and NATO leaders.
I'm going to meet with President Putin, and we're going to see what he has in mind. And if it's a fair deal, I'll reveal it to the European Union leaders and to the NATO leaders, and also to President Zelensky. I think out of respect, I'll call him first, and then I'll call them after.
Meanwhile, during a press conference at the White House on Monday, Trump said he'll try to get some territory back for Ukraine during his meeting with Putin on Friday. Trump stressed that Russia has occupied a big portion of Ukraine. The U.S. leader raised the possibility that both Russia and Ukraine would need to make some territorial concessions in order to work out a peace deal, saying that there could be some swapping, changes in land. However, Zelensky on Saturday shot down any chance of Ukraine giving up territory captured by Russia in the ongoing war. In a video posted on X, Zelensky said that Ukrainians will not give their land to the occupier, adding that his country will not reward Russia for what it has perpetrated. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
South Korea is considering skipping its annual report on human rights violations in North Korea. Now, if one is not released, it will be the first time since 2018. A Unification Ministry official said on Tuesday that it's been difficult to obtain new testimonies, as fewer than 10 people defected directly from the North last year. Though difficulty in collecting first-hand testimonies is cited as a reason, the ongoing review appears to be part of the Lee Jae-myung administration's efforts to ease tensions on the Korean peninsula. During his confirmation hearing last month, Unification Minister Jung Dong-young said that it's not appropriate to use North Korean human rights as a means of criticizing the regime. In part 2 of our interview, the CSI's Korea chair weighs in on the prospects for a Trump-Kim summit and the issues that could define it. He also notes that Washington's pursuit of a denuclearization of North Korea is a long-term goal. Our Kim Jong-sil reports.
Victor Cha, Korea chair at the Center for Strategic and International Studies, says Washington's official stance remains unchanged. The end goal is still the denuclearization of North Korea. But he warns that's no short-term prospect.
Stated U.S. policy is the end game is denuclearization, right? That's our stated U.S. policy. But that's really a long-term goal. I mean, given how much North Korea's nuclear program has developed. So the question then becomes, in the interim, what would the United States be seeking?
In that interim, Dr. Cha says Washington could pursue other priorities and perhaps a diplomatic opening. He suggested that if the U.S. president attends October's APEC meeting in Gyeongju, the trip might also take him to Panmunjom and possibly to talks with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un.
If that happened, I just want to ask you the real end game for both sides this time.
Certainly, I think some form of freeze on the program, some of the initial steps towards denuclearization would be important. But at the same time, there are other things that I think the United States is concerned about when it comes to North Korea. And one of them, of course, is their deep military relationship with Russia.
He says that relationship now factors directly into Trump's top foreign policy priority.
This is clearly a priority of the Trump administration to end the war in Europe. And North Korea now plays a role in that. So one wonders whether that will become a high priority issue if President Trump meets the leader of North Korea.
But Pyongyang has set its own terms for any meeting. In a recent statement, Kim Yo-jong, the powerful sister of North Korea's leader, rejected any challenge to the regime's nuclear weapons status.
She made very clear that any meeting between the two leaders will be as de facto recognized nuclear weapon state. So that is a condition that they've laid out for meeting, and I think it's one that the Trump administration has to determine whether they're willing to meet that condition or not.
Dr. Cha says a Trump-Kim meeting could sideline denuclearization issues for others, such as Pyongyang's military ties with Moscow or stopping North Korea from helping rebuild Iran's nuclear program.
But as we've seen with this president, in the end, he makes the decision. And as far as we know, he won't make that decision until he walks into the room with Kim.
For now, all eyes are on what Trump decides when and if he meets Kim. Kim Jong-sil, Arirang News.
South Korea and Vietnam continue to explore ways to further strengthen their ties in light of Vietnam's top political leaders' visit to South Korea this week. And today, Seoul hosted a business forum aimed at further beefing up its economic ties with Hanoi. Our correspondent Moon Ji-young reports.
To mark the first visit in 11 years by Vietnam's top party leader, the Korea Chamber of Commerce and Industry hosted a business forum on Tuesday, aiming to bolster economic cooperation between the two nations. The forum was attended by Vietnam's Party General Secretary Do Lam, 500 officials from both governments and the business community, and South Korean Prime Minister Kim Min-seok.
Since establishing diplomatic ties in 1992, Korea and Vietnam have mutually become among each other's top 3 trading partners. Korea is also Vietnam's largest investor, with nearly 10,000 companies operating there, making them essential economic partners across diverse sectors like textiles, electronics, chemicals, and shipbuilding.
Prime Minister Kim further emphasized expanding cooperation beyond manufacturing into new industrial sectors such as high-tech, culture, and digital, and also underscored comprehensive supply chain collaboration, particularly in energy. Vietnam's finance minister highlighted mutually beneficial cooperation.
The Vietnamese government welcomes Korean businesses to jointly enter Vietnam and third markets, and we are prepared for mutually beneficial cooperation. We will particularly work closely with Korea in new energy, semiconductors, AI, and the e-digital economy, and we will spare no support for large-scale cooperation projects.
The forum notably spurred significant collaboration, culminating in the signing of 52 memoranda of understanding across diverse sectors, such as industrial cooperation, energy, and food and tourism. Specifically, 47 Korean companies and organizations, along with 37 Vietnamese counterparts, committed to strengthening cooperation in a wide array of fields, from energy, shipbuilding, and aviation to cutting-edge areas like AI, advanced materials, and drones. Moon Ji-young, Arirang News.
South Korea's Defense Minister An Kyu-baek and his Vietnamese counterpart Pham Van Giang have agreed to boost ties in defense and industry. The two defense chiefs talked on Tuesday about specific ways to enhance defense cooperation in line with the comprehensive strategic partnership between the two nations. They additionally agreed to transfer a retired South Korean patrol vessel, the Cheong, to Vietnam. This marks the third patrol vessel that Seoul has transferred to Hanoi, following similar moves in 2017 and 2018. And South Korean President Lee Jae-myung and the First Lady Kim Hee invited Vietnam's top political leader To Lam and his spouse Ong Phong Lee to the Sangchunjae reception hall at Cheong Wa Dae on Tuesday. Presidential spokesperson Kang Woo-jung said the couples enjoyed musical performances featuring traditional instruments from each country. Over tea and a walk in the Nokjiwon Garden, the two leaders reaffirmed their commitment to advancing bilateral cooperation. The presidential office says this was the first official event at Sangchunjae under the new administration and called it the highest honor in hosting a state guest. In other news, workplace safety was once again at the center of Tuesday's cabinet meeting, as President Lee Jae-myung discussed ways to end the recent string of fatal industrial accidents with his cabinet. Our presidential office correspondent Song Yu-jin has this report.
At a cabinet meeting on Tuesday, President Lee Jae-myung again emphasized the need to move away from what he called a, quote, regressive republic of industrial accidents.
피할 수 있는데 피하지 않았다든지, 특히 돈을 벌기 위해서, 비용을 줄이기 위해서, 지출해야 될 비용을 아끼기 위해서 누군가의 목숨을 빼앗는다고 하는 것은, 그건 저는 전에도 말씀드렸습니다만 이게 일종의 미필적 고의의 살인 또는 사회적 타살이다.
The country has seen a string of fatal industrial accidents this year, with the most recent one happening last Friday when a worker fell to his death while dismantling a safety net at an apartment construction site. The next day, President Lee ordered the Labor Ministry to report on the preventive and follow-up measures for industrial accidents at Tuesday's cabinet meeting.
After hearing from the Labor Ministry, the president noted that not a single major construction company has been penalized under the Serious Accidents Punishment Act and called for a penalty surcharge system to ensure companies secure adequate budget for safety measures.
The Land Ministry reported its own plan to address major construction-related accidents. President Lee suggested harsher measures, such as permanently barring unsafe companies from public tenders and offering substantial rewards for whistleblowers who report poor safety management. He also touched on inter-Korean relations, noting the dismantling of loudspeakers by both sides.
대한민국의 조치에 맞춰서 북측도 이 불필요하고 비용 드는 확성기를 상호 철거했으면 좋겠습니다. 이렇게 상호적인 조치를 통해서 남북 간의 대화와 소통이 조금씩 열려가기를 바라고.
Following Seoul's complete removal of its loudspeakers used for anti-North Korea broadcasts, South Korea's military says it has detected signs of the North beginning to dismantle some of its own along the border. 송유진, Arirang News.
A Seoul court held a hearing today on whether to allow the arrest of a former First Lady Kim Keon Hee and the wife of former President Yoon Suk-yeol. Kim faces allegations of stock manipulation, interference in party nominations, and influence peddling, which she denies. Prosecutors argued there was a high risk she would destroy evidence. After the 4-hour hearing at the Seoul Central District Court on Tuesday, Kim was moved to Seoul Southern Detention Center to await the court's decision. A decision could come as early as tonight, and if granted, it will mark the first time in the country's history that a former president and first lady are detained simultaneously. Shifting gears, the K-pop Demon Hunters craze is hitting new heights, with its hit song Golden topping the Billboard Hot 100, making history for both K-pop and virtual idols. Our Pyeongyang tells us more.
The K-pop Demon Hunter sensation shows no signs of slowing down, this time topping the Billboard Hot 100 chart. Praised for its high-quality animation, visually striking characters, and clever use of Korean traditional folklore, the Netflix original animation soundtrack Golden climbed up a spot to reach #1 for the first time. Billboard announced the feat on Monday local time, noting that Golden is the 9th song linked to Korean pop to top the Hot 100, and the first to do so with female lead vocalists.
This is the first time a girl group has topped the Billboard Hot 100 since Destiny's Child. And in K-pop history, it's also the first time virtual idols, or an animated act based on K-pop, have reached #1 on the chart.
Sung by the virtual girl group HUNTR in the movie, the vocalists behind the song are Korean-American artists EJ, Ray Ami, and Audrey Nuna. Of all the tracks in K-pop Demon Hunters, Golden has stood out for its soaring high notes in the latter part of the song, a section that has even become a benchmark for proving one's vocal skills and sparked the Golden Challenge among K-pop stars. Big K-pop names like Solar of Mamamoo, Lily of Mix, and Ailey have all joined in.
K-pop is not just about listening to and enjoying the music. It's about enjoying it together. That's one of K-pop's charms. Participating, singing along, even creating content, all of that has helped bring the songs from K-pop Demon Hunters closer to the public.
Earlier this month, Golden also topped the UK's official singles Top 100 chart, one of the 2 biggest music charts in the world, alongside Billboard's Top 100, making it a rare track to conquer both the UK and U.S. pop markets. Pyeongyang, Arirang News.
Rainfall of around 30 millimeters per hour has poured down on the coastal areas of Jeju Island and Jeollanam-do province. Heavy rain warnings and advisories are in effect on the coast of Jeollanam-do, Gyeongsang-nam-do provinces, and the mountainous areas of Jeju Island, and there will be a lot of rain. This rain will spread all over the country tomorrow. As much as 150 millimeters of rain is forecast in northern Gyeonggi-do province and Incheon, and up to 120 millimeters in Seoul. Please be prepared in advance to avoid any damage from rain. The morning will start warm at 25 degrees Celsius in Seoul and Gwangju, Busan at 26 degrees. Highs will go up to 27 degrees in Seoul and Chuncheon, Gyeongju and Jeju at 33 degrees. It will start raining tomorrow night in the southern parts of the country, but it will continue until Friday morning in the center parts of the country. That's all for Korea. Here are the weather conditions around the world.
That is all we have for tonight. I'm Kim Dami. For all of us here at Arirang, thanks for watching and good night.